Today on the Relationship Renovation Podcast, we are super excited to have Dr. Warren Farrell. He has a new book, Rollmate to Soulmate, that talks a lot about how you and your partner can deal with criticism.
Everybody liked the fact that they shouldn't be defensive in response to criticism. But when they got home in real life, the moment that criticism appeared, that wisdom disappeared.
He also talks about how important it is to appreciate one another and be disciplined in it.
It was like discipline, love, no, those things don't go together. And in fact, they really do go together.
Hello, all, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation Podcast. I'm Tarah Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin. And today we are excited to jump into another interview. We have today Dr. Warren Farrell. This is really neat. He was chosen by the Financial Times of London as one of the world's top 100 thought leaders. So that's amazing. And it's in the space of relationships, a lot around sort of men's mental health. He has a number of New York Times bestsellers. One is Why Men Are the Way They Are. Another is The Myth of Male Power. And today we're going to be talking about his most recent book and some of the concepts coming out of it. And that's Rollmate to Soulmate, The 7 Secrets to Lifelong Love. So welcome, Dr. Warren.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
You know, our audience always loves to hear just a little bit about you at the beginning and how you came to the place you are, how you became an expert. So please just tell us a little bit about yourself.
You know, I started, my career started with the feminist movement. I was deeply involved with it. I was on their board of directors in New York City and spoke all around the world on the importance of women's empowerment. And then I began to see, while I was on the board one day, I had just finished reading a lot of research about the divorces that were happening in the 1970s and how many of the children of those divorces didn't have dads, and those children were doing particularly bad. Lee and I mentioned that to the board of now, and they were a little bit hesitant to sort of take that on, saying that they wanted women to be able to may have their choice as to whether they wanted children after divorce or not. And so, but it called to my attention the importance of father involvement, in particular, in children's lives. And then I realized that in order to have father involvement, it really helped to not have divorces, to have relationships be solid and good. But I saw that the Achilles heel of almost every human relationship was the inability to handle criticism without becoming defensive. And I saw that everybody suggested that, but I found that I was doing workshops at that time called Why Men Are the Way They Are. And and 1/5 of the workshops were based on communication skills. And I was giving that advice, and everybody was saying the advice being when criticism appears, sort of be open to it and receptive, and everybody agreed. But then I did follow-up phone calls. I had follow-up group phone calls a couple of weeks after the workshop. And usually actually a month or two after the workshop, and asked people what was working and what wasn't. And what I found is that everybody liked the fact that they shouldn't be defensive in response to criticism. But when they got home in real life, the moment that criticism appeared, that wisdom disappeared. And so I sort of asked myself if it was possible to develop something that was counter the natural propensity to respond defensively to criticism. And so I worked on that for years. And when I finally got that and developed a whole series of meditations that really worked based on the feedback from the groups, that's when I felt I was ready to write the Rollmate to Soulmate book on that.
So the idea of really trying to establish healthy relationships so that people don't go straight to divorce, so that people can have that understanding, love, acceptance during really difficult moments, which are critical moments. I mean, we get the couples at our center, Warren, that are like, it's either this or we're done.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's so powerful because the moment someone does feel criticized, it's like your entire body just wants to go crawl under a hole and say, I just want to be in something different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you see gender wise that one gender was more susceptible to reacting negatively to criticism, or was it pretty equal?
It's equal, and both with men and women, but also in gay couples. There's just, a number of couples that attend my workshops are gay, and, nothing, both of them, if you love somebody, you feel vulnerable. And
Yes.
when somebody makes a suggestion to you, and this is biological, what I really try to help everybody understand is this is biologically natural. Historically speaking, if you heard criticism, it was a potential enemy. And so it really made sense to get up your defenses, or even to kill the enemy before the enemy killed you.
Yeah.
And so that's, and that was functional for survival. It's just totally dysfunctional for love.
Yeah.
But everybody comes from that background, and that helps people in the workshop realize that this is not unnatural. And also, the more you love somebody, the more vulnerable you feel. So it's not like this goes away when you love somebody. At the beginning, it does.
Right.
You want to adapt at the beginning of a relationship, and and the few criticisms that come in are very small compared to the enormous potency of the drug of love. But then after a while, as you get more complacent with each other and more real with each other and more real with yourself, somebody says, gee, it really would be great if you could put the dishes in the dishwasher rather than the sink. And from the perspective of the person making that suggestion, it seems like just a good idea, and that will bring more peace to the presence of yourself and your partner in the kitchen. And so that will be an add-on to your day, your relationship, and to your intimacy. But the person hearing, I didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher, is more likely to say, well, you didn't do it the other week, and I didn't say anything to you. I just loaded them myself. And then what are you on to this escalation of accusations that lead to people walking on eggshells, meaning that the man and woman are afraid to say, or the couple, the gay couple, both partners are afraid to say anything because they're looking for the right time, the right place, so that they won't be smashed down as heavily by their partner. And that's the seeds of the beginning of relationship destruction. And so I tried to find a way that criticisms could be heard in a way that associated those criticisms with an opportunity to be more deeply loved, even as the criticism is being given. So that was the goal.
I feel like when we see couples at our practice, they feel uniquely broken. Like there's just like there's something wrong with us. And when we kind of start to educate them, like it's not natural to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I hurt you. Help me understand what I did, right? It is our we want to say like, no, like you actually hurt me worse. And so when we really give them the idea that it's like skills, like you can learn these skills to stay in intolerable moments. And right, I always say, I think it's a Michael Singer quote, a heart with ears. And once they understand the idea that it's not me or us that's uniquely broken, we just don't learn these skills, how to be okay hearing something difficult. We just learn how to put ourselves in our shell and protect ourselves. And so I guess I was wondering because you said you brought like meditations and stuff into this in order to feel okay, like were people's heels dug in? Like, no, I'm not changing. It's my partner that has to change. Or were they really understanding like, wow, no, I get it. Like my biological nervous system is not equipped. And I guess I'm curious about the research participants, if you will.
Yes. So what I ended up doing was creating 2 hours a week where one concern that you have about your partner can be shared. But before that concern is shared, now the person receiving this and hearing it sees it not as a concern, but a criticism. Person giving it sees it as a concern. And the person, so before the person hearing this criticism does that, first, both both members of the couple share appreciations for each other. Then they do the work I'm going to talk about in a second, and they end with appreciations. That's sort of standard operating procedure. But the new stuff is that before you hear the criticism, you meditate out loud to your partner. And so one meditation is called the love guarantee. There's 6 meditations. And the love guarantee goes like this. It says, the person about to hear the criticism says out loud, I would like to provide a safe environment for you to be able to say whatever you would like to say, whether I agree with it or disagree with it, and in whatever tone of voice that you say it in. And I'll realize that the angrier that you are, and the more you may say something that I don't agree with, the more secure you will feel if I provide a safe environment for you. Therefore, the more loved you will feel by me.
Wow.
And therefore, the more love you will feel for me. Now, the person about to hear this is saying this out loud. And the purpose of saying it out loud is so that the person about to give the criticism can hear their loved one preparing themselves for associating that criticism with an opportunity to be more deeply loved.
Yes.
I'll give you another.
There.
I'll give you a more fun one. I have every couple in the workshop sit back to back, and and I ask them to write something down on a piece of yellow paper that's identical to all the other yellow papers everybody in the workshop has. And they, while they're sitting back to back, I ask them to write the answer to this question. Imagine your partner is about to be killed. She or he is like about to drown, about to be killed in a car accident. But you know with 100% certainty that you can save your partner's life. But you also sense that you'll have a 50% chance, a risk of losing your own life in the process. Assuming that children are not involved, would you do that? And then I have them write down lose life, 50%. And then they write down yes, no, uncertain. And so they're back to back now. And so I ask them to wrinkle up their pieces of paper. They throw it in a gender different way in different parts of the room. They pick up somebody else's piece of paper from the room, and about 90% of the men say that they would be willing to die, take a 50% risk of dying in order to save their partner's life. About 80% of the women say they would be willing to do that. Wow. And so the first meditation is, if I'm willing to die for you, I guess I could listen to you.
I'm like, yeah, you start off extreme for a reason.
Yeah. I love what you said around having that partner say it's sort of an affirmation or a pledge, and they're saying it to their partner. But what I thought throughout the whole thing is, if I was doing that, it would be like it's like me setting my intention. It's reminding me of like, okay, like I'm going to be open. I'm gonna accept if there's anger or a bigger emotion coming at me when you criticize me. It's like, I'm setting the ground for being a good listener and being able to accept the criticism.
And creating new pathways to be in that place.
Yes. Tell me more about what you mean by new pathways, because I think that you're onto something very important.
Because I feel like that threat system, it's so automatic and there's no space in between for it. We just go there without thinking about it. And with intentionality, now it's creating a new neural a new neural network that's starting to wire itself. Like, actually, I can be okay in discomfort, right? I think of like flight, fight, or freeze. And then when, individuals start to do their trauma work, knowing like I can actually handle criticism, I can handle difficult things, and I will be okay, and I'm still loved, and I'm still accepted, and really creating that new part of, it's like just that new wiring that tells your brain, like, this isn't a threat anymore. If your partner's got this tone, like, that doesn't mean you're bad or something bad's
they're out
going
to
to
get
happen
you.
or they're out to get you. And I think really just trying to be comfortable with uncomfortable, which, humans don't like to be. Look at the medicating in our society to drown out anything that's uncomfortable or instant gratification because we don't want to suffer and wait for it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I feel like that's why meditation for me is so powerful, because you just create that space so you get more of a chance, and you're still going to get it wrong.
Absolutely. And so, yes, so I think you're really, I asked you to elaborate on that because I think you're really on to something that everyone needs to hear. When people finish doing the workshop, or they finish reading the Role Mate to Soulmate book, that is not enough. Because that does not reorient your neural pathways. You have to keep practicing this, and that practice will come with multiple failures. But it will also, and because the handling of criticism is so biologically unnatural, that's why I ask people to sort of go in through these 6 meditations first before they hear it. And then there's a number of things in the process. Normally speaking, people will hold on to this for a little while, and then all of a sudden their partner will say something that they really disagree with, and they start thinking to themselves, okay, when it's my chance to talk, I'm going to get back at that one. And they'll start doing what I call self-listening. That is, listening to themselves respond, prepare their response to their partner, as opposed to really listening to their partner. And so I ask people that the second that they sense that they're self-listening, to just say the word hold. And then I teach them then how to recenter themselves so they can, instead of self-listening, truly be listening to their partner, not just pretending to listen to their partner while they prepare their own response. And so, and then the hold is also important because it's biologically natural to not be able to do this for the entire period of time that your partner wishes to talk and explain. But boy, once people do this and practice it a few times, and then also I teach them how to do a conflict-free zone, so that you're not expected to respond to your partner's criticism right then. Once you have the experience of doing this and knowing that your response can be heard by your partner without she or he becoming defensive, then you then you have the possibility of visualizing when your partner criticizes you. I have a visualization I can do, and that is I can either respond now and tell my partner why she or he is wrong. And it's about a 90% chance that will escalate until both of us are feeling badly about each other. Or I can save this to what I call the caring and sharing time, this time that I just described. And there's about 100% chance that I'll really be heard there. So do I want to be heard, or do I want to be argued with? And so once you've learned that skill of caring and sharing, you have the option that's the first step of being able to create a conflict-free zone for the rest of the week, the 166 hours that are not in the caring and sharing time.
You know what I love about this? First of all, there's like a structure to it. Like, here are the steps that we can take to get you to this place. And it's going to be clunky and you're going to fail many times. But if you keep practicing it, it's going to build trust that we can be who we need to be in this relationship, regardless of if it's ugly or not ugly. And so many people come in and they don't trust that the other person can handle it. So like, I just don't say anything because like, I can tell he's had a really bad day. But it's like, okay, but we don't even give each other the chance now. And I love that this gives both partners a chance to trust that we can handle it. Because I think so many people just go on these assumptions like, I'm not even going to try because they'll just go offline. And then we don't get to watch each other grow.
Yes, if you don't have a structure and a method of handling it, the chances are fairly good you won't handle it well. And the chances are fairly good that your partner really does have to walk on eggshells, waiting for the right time, the right sentence, only say half of what she or he is concerned with because they're afraid of going too far this way. And it's really so relieving to everyone that goes through this to see that there is a time when you can speak exactly what you want to say and make mistakes in accuracy, exaggerate, even be upset or angry, and your partner's going to hold that safe space for you and know that the angrier you are and with your partner still holding that safe space for you, what a degree of internal security that brings you. And ironically, of course, as I'm sure you would guess, when somebody knows their partner is going to listen in that way, there's no need to be as angry. There's no need to exaggerate. We are angry. We raise our voice. We exaggerate because it's our way of getting our partner's attention. But when we see we have our partner's attention, all the need for that disappears.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was always like a big struggle for us was that when Tarah would come with me about certain concerns that I would get defensive about, was also sort of blind maybe to a lot of my own defensiveness. Like I thought I was managing myself because I wasn't being demonstrative and I wasn't getting pissed off, but I was sort of, sort of blocking it. And, but what you do is you sort of slow it down, and then you also give them some tools of understanding what's going on. Like I love that. What did you call it when you start to think, when you kind of get into your own narrative and you stop listening? Say it one more time. Self-listening.
Right.
Yeah. I think for me, that was something that, even though I was a meditator during those years, I was still sort of blinding myself to the fact that like, I would go into my self-listening in order to sort of protect myself.
Yes. Oh, and it is a protection. Like when you feel criticized, you asked before about there are differences between the way guys and women respond. The difference, the outcome, there's almost no difference. But the reasons criticisms hurt men and hurt women have some differences. So, for example, every man knows intuitively, even if he hasn't said this, that if my wife does not respect me, she can't love me. And so when she's criticizing me, that feels like I'm not being respected. Therefore, I'm not feeling loved, that she can't love me. So I better defend myself against that criticism because I don't want there to be a chance that she will not love me. And so and the more you love her, the more you feel that way because the more you fear what you have to lose.
Sure.
Conversely, when women are criticized, part of what women have sought out historically is a provider and a protector. And when somebody is criticizing you, that doesn't feel very protective of you.
Yeah.
And so for different reasons or overlapping reasons, both men and women feel criticized, feel very defensive. And gay couples say the same thing. And most gay couples, not all, but most gay couples, one of them plays more a male role and one of them plays more a female role. And there's some of that dimension of defensiveness. But the reasons for the difference are interesting, but they're not mandatory to know because the real problem is just how to be able to create this conflict-free zone during the 166 hours a week, and then knowing how to do that caring and sharing time the other 2 hours.
So if a couple gets your book, is it pretty like week one or here's the first thing? Like, is it pretty detailed? Like how to, because I know couples without maybe a therapist or a coach in the room might have a really difficult time, especially if one partner is maybe like more motivated than the other. So I'm just like wondering how you set that up.
Yes. First of all, very good question and point about the motivation. Most people, one is more motivated than the other because the other one feels like there's no chance of my being able to say something without being, having a defensive response. So why even get into this? I'm just afraid to bring up these issues and just stir the kettle. So everyone really is motivated once they know that they are really going to end up feeling heard. And it's going to be safe for them to say what they want, especially men in second marriages who are older and have often been very resistant in this workshop. They've told me, I have promised myself never to criticize my wife because every time I do, there's no sex, there's no warmth. there's no love.
It's
So,
punishment.
I'm punished. And even though she says she wants that. And so, that's really important. So one of the first things I do is to teach. So in the book, first of all, one of the things I say in Roommate to Soulmate as a book is everything, all your ability to handle personal criticism, appreciate each other, and do all the 21 love enhancements that I have in the book. These are all things that you will intellectually absorb in the process of reading the book, and you will not be able to do them unless you practice doing them. And so with the book comes a practically free online video course that the couple can get, and then actually practice these exercises together. And then I teach people what to do when one of what I call the 4 lazinesses come in, which is doing the exercises incompletely, giving the things I ask people to do short shrift, because it really is a discipline. Even appreciating each other is a discipline.
Yes.
So part of the first thing that I ask couples in the book to do when they start is to learn the discipline and the art of appreciation. The subtitle of the course is The Art and Discipline of Love. And so one of the things that I direct in that regard is to know how to appreciate your partner at least 5 levels of specificity. So, and with curiosity. So for example, if we're at a dinner and my wife has cooked a turkey, I might say something like, Liz is my wife's name. Liz is a wonderful cook. That's very nice and sweet, but, it doesn't go very far. Right. But if I say that Liz has Liz, when she cooks her turkey, that she really gets the skin really crisp. And how do you do that, sweetie? Now I'm putting her in a position where she's the expert. I'm expressing curiosity. And she's seeing that I actually see that the turkey's skin is crisp, and she feels more seen. And then if I move further and say, well, and the dressing is so moist, and how do you get the dressing so moist while the skin is so crisp? Now, again, I'm expressing that curiosity. I'm being much more specific. She sees that I really see specific things about the way she's cooking that she lets her know that she's being appreciated. And then I say, the spices are really good too. What are those spices? Is that, parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, or some other Simon and Garfunkel spice? And so, the more I do that within the framework of reasonability, the more she feels seen and like she's the center of attention of that group that she's cooked for, as opposed to just, you're a good, Liz is a good cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love that on 2 levels. One, I love that being seen is a part of appreciation. That really letting your partner know you are observing, like you are noticing in specificity. So I think, and then the next part is just that, we talk about with a couple or a couple knows on some level that appreciation is important, but helping people understand, hey, here's the practical way to do it. It's noticing the thing you might give a compliment about, and then getting super specific about why you're complimenting it. Because, there's all kinds of studies around like how easily people absorb positive feedback versus negative feedback. And if you give a 5-second compliment, it doesn't break through that. But if you give a 15, 20, 30-second compliment that also has an open-ended question that engages the person, the chances it's going to soak in are just like, increase dramatically.
Absolutely.
I would like to say something really quick, Warren, because at the end of, we have about 13 therapists on staff here. And at the end of every couples session, we say, look at each other, appreciate the other person. Well, guess what? We might be carving out like 8 to 10 minutes now of these appreciations to get more specific, because I feel like it's such a powerful way to end. But, ours are more of that vague, like, I really appreciate you being here today. But what
Yes.
about her being here? What about him being here? Tell me more.
Yes.
So thank you. This is just going to help, right? Just really deepen that experience for the couples and our therapist here as well. Anyway, what were you going to say?
No, absolutely. First, that's really good. And even maybe doing that at the beginning and at the end. And then the other aspect of that I think is important is the discipline part. Like saying every Wednesday night, you'll do 3 appreciations of each other at the dinner table. And so and people say, well, I want to be more spontaneous. And my response is, wonderful, be spontaneous. But but that doesn't substitute for making sure that you have a time to actually do that to look forward to. But most people, the things they appreciate about their partner, they think inside of themselves they're appreciating them, but they often don't. Their partner often doesn't hear that and have a chance to rejoice in that. And having a specific time that you set aside each week where you're going to be sharing that with each other is really helpful. And it can be, and then on car trips, being able to set aside a time where you just you associate a car trip with, once we're on the highway and it's safer, let's just share a few appreciations about each other. And that's really so, it does what I call fill the reservoir of love. And there's no incentive to be able to hear criticisms from somebody when you haven't filled that reservoir of love.
Yeah. And I love just the overall idea is that we need to bring intentionality into our relationships. It's the area. I mean, one of your quotes in here is a falling in love is natural, but sustaining love is unnatural. It's the one area of our life that's probably the most important that we just want it to sort of take care of itself.
Yes.
You know, we want it just like, oh, I loved you. I was crazy about you 15 years ago. So what happened? It's like, well, we don't put the energy and intentionality into our relationships that we need to. And unfortunately, and in our cases as therapists and having a couples counseling center, is we see couples when they haven't done that in so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we're just bringing them back to this very simple idea that you got to pay attention. You have to have systems. You have to be consistent. I love the fact that you use discipline in a positive way,
Yes,
that you have to be disciplined.
Yes, it's, when I first suggested the course at one of the places I teach this course is at Esalen and Canyon Ranch. I've taught there. But in the process of doing that, when I first subtitled the Role Made to Soulmate course, The Art and Discipline of Love, it was like, discipline, love, no, those things don't go together. And in fact, they really do go together and they need to, but it's not just the things I've been talking about. It's learning how to play together. I find the couples that learn how to play together know how to stay together to a greater degree. And also doing family dinner nights without creating family dinner nightmares. So many parents in particular, teachers often told me, at parent teacher night, I would often be surprised that when I had somebody in my class who was really empathetic, I was expecting to have these wonderful empathetic parents, but oftentimes they were parents that had, I could see were really much more attentive to boundary enforcement and somewhat strict. And then the reverse. Sometimes when the kid was very sort of like, self-centered, the parents would be very empathetic. And I realized that, that when you're doing family dinner nights and you're teaching everybody how to appreciate each other, that oftentimes very empathetic parents would do one-way empathy. They would be empathetic and appreciative of their children, but they would not require their children to be empathetic and appreciative of their brothers and their sisters or them as parents. And I saw that one-way empathy does not beget empathy. One-way empathy begets self-centeredness on the part of the person who's always empathized with, but never required to also know how to do empathizing with others.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
really
like,
powerful.
I know. I feel like that's a whole other podcast right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I love is like this full circle. Like you started out because of your observations of in the 70s divorce rates, right? And dads not being around. And then it goes to the defensiveness of dads. And just like, I mean, looking back, this is like 40 plus years of work. What are you most proud of?
I think I'm most known for books like The Boy Crisis that came out recently, and books like Why Men Are the Way They Are. But I'm really most proud of this book because it's more the deeper cause. So if I look at The Boy Crisis, for example, that's often created by dad deprivation. Mm-hmm. When I look at dad deprivation, that's often created by divorces. When I look at divorces, that's often created by people not being able to hear personal criticism without becoming defensive, or not having the discipline to appreciate each other and leave their partner appreciated, not knowing how to overcome complacency. And so things like so. And so if I can have a marriage that is good and powerful and wonderful role models for the children, I have created a lack of divorce and therefore a lack of the boy crisis. And so the deeper root solutions are in the ability to communicate and to be able to know how to appreciate and hear personal criticism and play together, and and to learn how to evolve, to be able to assess complacency and what the strengths and the weaknesses of complacency are.
Yeah.
And what a gift to be able to love each other more deeply, especially in uncomfortable times, to model that for the children. Because I know nowadays, like children see their parents arguing and it's like, are you going to get divorced? And imagine what that does to a little child's nervous system. And like, EJ and I have done our work and we continue to do our work every day. But like our kids know, like, hey, we're going to have an argument and we're going to come back and it's going to be okay because we respect each other and we do the hard work so they don't have to walk on eggshells. And that's the freedom of it. That's why this work is so important. And I'm so grateful to have you on our podcast today to learn more about your work. And of course, I'm going to go order all the books like I do.
Yeah. And we, we're grateful for you to share with our audience, role mate to soulmate. We love the fact that it's not like just high level ideas. It's practical. It's steps. It's creating routines.
There's video trainings with the steps.
Yeah. So we will, in our show notes, definitely to our audience, give you a direct link to reach out and grab Role Mate to Soulmate. And then also just offering gateways just to you, Dr. Warren, and people can find out more about what you're doing and your workshops. And thank you so much for being a part of our show today.
It's just a pleasure. You both have such warmth in your the way you present and talk with each other. You really balance each other very nicely, ask wonderful questions, and do really great listening. So it's a real pleasure to be on the show.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. And if you are in Tucson again, please, we want to be a part of that workshop.
All right. Very
I just don't want EJ to know my answer to the yellow paper. I'm just kidding. What if I'm the 20%, not the 80%? I'm just kidding.
The next workshop I'm doing is in April in Big Sur, California. So
that's beautiful.
Come out to there and give yourselves an excuse to spend some time in Big Sur. That'd be wonderful to see you there.
Well, we want to thank one more time Dr. Warren Farrell for being a part of our show today. Again, like I said, we'll give you links directly to his new book, to his media, to his workshops that are upcoming. And I would say go check this out because it sounds like it's a fantastic way for you and your partner to make your relationship a priority and learn how to accept feedback from one another and have it enhance your relationship instead of pull you guys apart.
It's hard work, but so worth it. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye-bye.